All right, we are in Franklin, Tennessee, just outside of Nashville. I'm here at the Battleground Academy. Fred Eaves. Fred, you got to tell me your title, because I'm now, it's not athletic director, it's director of athletics and director of wellness. Wait, did I get that right?
Yeah, we joke about the titles. I mean, I think in reality, I'm the director of athletics, the director of wellness, the wellness department chair, and the head strength conditioning coach.
Yeah.
So a lot of working in an independent school, we wear a lot of hats, obviously. So that's kind of the how we, we're just like, whatever it is, we're gonna get it done. Doesn't matter. So.
Well, I'll remind everybody, we're at a school, Battleground Academy. Just give us, because normally I'm in private facilities for the most part on Strength Coach TV. Sure. Tell us a little bit about Battleground Academy.
Yeah. Battleground Academy is a K through 12, what we call an independent school. We don't have an affiliation in terms of religion. It's a private school. It's been here since 1889. Rather large tuition in the area. A lot of people call it a prep school, I guess, if you're from the Northeast. Places like that. We have I always talk about, like, when you think about Battleground, I really think of like Air Force Academy, Naval Academy, places like that. We've got really good kids that work really hard, that are really smart. And we're not scaring anyone when we get off of a bus, but we tend to be fairly successful in most of our athletic endeavors. So great place with great kids, great community, great support, great leadership here, and we're just blessed to be here, my wife and I.
Very cool. I still think, though, it would be a great name for a private facility. The Battleground Academy. Come on, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you said it's no religious affiliation. It looks like footballs might be the religion here. So, what a place. Oh, my God. So just give us a rundown of the facility. What kind of square footage we got? What do we got going on here?
Sure. Square footage wise, in the weight room area, we're at around 6,000 square feet. The room's kind of long. Sometimes it's a bit narrow for my taste, but I wasn't here for the design of that. So
that's the disclaimer. He wants to do that right now.
there would have probably been some more arguments if I would have been here at that time. But it's hard to complain. It'd be like complaining about driving a Jaguar. So,
I can see.
We've got 10 racks, 10 half racks. We've got 10 platforms. We've got, myriad of dumbbells, and we've got a whole side of selectorized cardio. I mean, we have Tendo units. I mean, we have. As far as bells and whistles and toys inside the weight room, we've got everything we need. We don't want for anything. Right outside the weight room, when you walk out, there's a 40 by 40 turf area with a sprint track, and we don't use the sprint track a ton unless we get into rainy day situations with some sports come inside. So we'll do a lot of accessory stuff out there, but it's not. It's just another area for us. In terms of that, so we do a lot of work out on the turf. I mean, as we all know, in this day and time, our kids don't move well. They don't move much. So we spend as much time out there as we do in here, honestly. Depending upon the age and our population.
Well, I want to tell everybody too who's coming in here, because I think originally when I came in here, I'm like, wow, these athletes have it made, but it's not just athletes. Tell us who's coming in here.
We call it our long-term physical development program. It goes kindergarten through the 12th grade, and we service all students. So we're going to have 5 different developmental blocks for our athletes, and we have two paths. And obviously, when you hear my verbiage, you're going to know that I've been inspired by Joe Ken. Joe's a friend of mine, and we use tier system, which is, for us, on a crazy rotating schedule, it works very well. It's such a plug-and-play type system that we can maneuver and make it work for our situation. But we're going to deal with everything from the theater kid who's terrified of a weight room to the Division I athlete that we, maybe squatting 2 times his body weight, and we moved on to some velocity-based stuff with them. So we've just got a wide range. And we'll have all those kids in the same class. You could walk in and see those kids working in the same class. So we've got to structure that class, and it really comes down to what are our baseline exercises and regressions and progressions. And that's what it comes down to for us to make it all work. So you may walk in the room and everyone's squatting that day, but it may be from body weight squat all the way to back squat with a velocity-based measuring unit on it. Just depending upon what they need.
We'll expand more on that after the tour when we sit down back again. Because I know. We can kind of come in here and be like, oh, wow, this is great, and you have everything you need. But you're dealing with a lot of kids. You're dealing with a lot of different kids. So we'll talk about that when we get back. So, cool. All right, well, let's go get a tour of this beautiful facility.
All right, sounds great.
All right. Perfect.
All right, so the guys will come in. This is where they start out. We've got 2 different locker room areas. There's a football locker room, and then we have a locker room that services our other sports and all of our kids that are in the wellness class. We're at the end of the day today, so it's pretty hectic. It's a little quieter during the school day. You'll see kids coming in. We got girls getting ready for a soccer match, so it's a normal day at the academy.
Very cool, very cool.
All right, so they'll come here.
The football players, they have their own.
They do, yeah, they have their own. Yeah, they're coming there, right out of there, and then they'll come down. Everybody gets dressed and comes down this way. Hello, Maxwell. You doing all right, buddy?
Yes, sir.
Good. Gentlemen, what's going on? Tony, you gonna run into me? Hey guys, how's it going? Thank you, sir. What's going on, Mr. Jones?
Doing all right?
Doing well. What's up?
How's it going?
Doing all right?
Yes, sir.
Good. I'm living the dream, Jack. You know me. So then they'll come down. This is the weight room area. When they actually first come down, we're all going to start outside. If we're talking class period, then we're going to start out on the turf. We're living in a world where we've got about 30 actual minutes to train them.
Oh, wow.
So we have 2 different preps, but a general prep for them would be they're going to get a 2-minute foam roll. Then they're going to pop up. They're going to do a kettlebell warm-up. It's a little modified from Dan John's deal, but they'll go 3 swings, 3 goblet squats, inchworm out, 3 push-ups. They'll come back, go 3, 2, 1 with that. They'll work all the way down to 1.
Yeah.
Then they'll pop out. They'll do 5 broad jumps. They'll hit some jump rope, and then they'll head inside and get ready to roll because we've got a very, very short amount of time to get these guys going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll get them prepped and we'll go from there. Then they'll pop back in the weight room. You can see we got the cross country guys, by the way, are coming out for receiver next year. Some of those guys are they get after it every day up here. So then after that, everybody kind of moves in the weight room area.
Cool. Like you said, the sprint track.
Yeah, got the sprint track. So we can start right here with kind of the adjustment plan. So they'll start, when they look here, these are our in-season sport adjustments.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we'll have their workout cards at their racks. That's all the off-season. And then our in-season stuff will be an adjustment off of that. And obviously you can tell we're tier system. You can see the TLUs, and that's all magnetized, and we move that around to do what we need to do. Really, when we're working with kids to make it work for the large group, we're gonna have a bunch of, it really comes down to manipulating their volume and their intensity and make sure we're being smart with what they do. So we may move sessions around. Hey, if soccer's got a match on Tuesday, probably not gonna do a squat session on Monday. We're probably gonna look something up more of a session U there. So that's kind of how we make all that work. That board's our lifeline for making sure everyone's on the right page.
Yeah, very cool.
This is the area that our kids, all of our, especially on the athletic-based training path, they'll all work over here in the rack area. Obviously, we've got plenty of toys to play with. On the other side, if we've got injured students or we've got students that are, it's really for the most part in a class, most of our injured kids would be over there.
Okay.
And we'll bounce back and forth with them.
side?
Yeah, in the selectorized cardio area.
Now is somebody checking them in here? Is that what this is for?
This is kind of the, if you have to do something, if something comes up, this is kind of the monitoring station there to make sure everything's going okay.
Okay.
There may be some days that I'm sitting here while we've got assistants on the floor and I can just kind of watch a session and see what's going on there.
Yeah, very cool.
Most of my work is going to be in the morning time. I write all the programming and I'll do the morning session and then we'll kind of start splitting off from there.
Yeah, and now up here we got the record board.
Yeah, and really we're not a, you'll see Joe, one of our alums of the record's a country music star now, and that's one of his hashtag rock on. So yeah, the kids will play around a little bit. We're not obsessed with numbers here. That's just not who we are. But we do keep that. The kids like that. We keep it all by body weight standards, and you know the kids have a good time with it. But they understand that we're very, very concerned with personal improvement.
Yeah.
And that's the world we live in. But at the same time, they're high school kids. There's a myriad of interests for them, so if we can give them something that motivates them a little bit more, we have a lot of kids who really buy into that part of it as well.
Yeah, that's cool. So how much are they using outside too? Like outside of this, besides like, are you guys, because obviously if the football team's out there, you're not going to be able to use the field.
Yeah.
But you know, are you guys utilizing, or 30 minutes just doesn't give you enough time?
No, it depends on the time of the year. So if you're looking at the school day, we've got 30 minutes to train when it's all said and done. But when we're out here in the summer, we're going to have around 200, 250 kids in here from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. that day. And we'll spend an hour on the turf before we ever move inside, because I'll have them for 2-hour sessions at that point.
Yeah.
So it really just depends on the time of the year. And what we're doing there, but it gets a ton of use. It gets a ton. And then our off-season kids, after school, and our after school, before school, and after school groups who have a little bit longer session, that's when they'll go through a longer deal.
Do the regular students come in the off-season, like in the summer?
Yeah.
They do?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
No,
cool.
we have it. Yeah, it's we do a competition series, and that's what this stuff is here that you'll see. Okay. It's nothing revolutionary. The kids draft each other. And it's a point series, and it's just the normal deal. We collect points at the end. We finish with this huge obstacle course and crown the champions. And I think the cup's over there somewhere. They get the picture made with the cup and get put in the program, cool. and they have a blast with it. And the kids do it's really driven by them. Yeah. And if it was driven by me, it probably wouldn't be very good. But our kids do an excellent job of promoting it. They do an excellent job and really the reason we instituted it was to get them to hold each other accountable.
Yeah.
And that's what they do with it. So if we've got someone who the steepest penalty is a no call, no show, and that's going to cost you a lot of points, so they're gonna hound those kids. Say, where are you at? And obviously we're in an affluent area, and we've got kids that have resources and families that have resources. So we have kids that travel, and we work with those things. Don't get me wrong, but if it's a no call, no show, and you're not accounted for, then obviously there's a penalty to pay for that.
Love it.
Yeah.
We were talking before we were filming a little bit about the design. Like you said, your disclaimer, you didn't design it.
Yeah.
It looks pretty good anyway. What were some things that you feel like, okay, there's nothing I can do about it, these are here, or things that you might have changed?
Sure. I think the first thing I would have done is the track for us it's not really a valuable piece.
Yeah.
We would have moved that wall out just a bit more.
Okay.
And kind of had that go up to the turf right there. We'd have made this room a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
That way it would have given us a little bit more room on the outside edges. We've actually moved. If you look over here, these racks used to be back to back and facing out, and I think that's a difficult room to coach.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you mean. Oh, so they were coming down the middle?
Yeah, they were in the middle. The racks used to sit here with, if say the spotter arms are facing this way and the spotter arms are facing out that way, and they were back to back. So when you were coaching the room, you had to duck over here, duck over here, and we used to station, obviously in most high school environments, you're not going to have 2 or 3 or 4 coaches to do that with. It's usually you by yourself. So it just wasn't very practical. So obviously we've got our racks that are a couple feet on the platform right there, and we've just decided we're going to live with that, where we can walk in between and coach them the way we want to in between sets.
Very cool.
So this has been a much better space for us. Kids will do a lot of our reset work in the middle now. Instead of having to go all the way outside to do it, they'll do their rolls, they'll do their rocks and things in here, which has been huge.
What kind of a project was that? I see you have the recessed flooring there too.
Yeah. So it's pretty. We finished the summer last year with this and moved everything around. I had a great group of interns that did an excellent job. I would have. I'm getting a little older now, so it's harder for me to move the stuff the way I used to.
And we're bad at delegating when it comes to picking stuff up, right?
Absolutely.
Like, I can still do it.
Absolutely. Until you go home, it's like, what's this going on in my back? What is that? So no, we had a great crew. We put in a good amount of time last summer and got it done today. So
cool, Coach. Let's go sit down. We'll talk a little bit of some of your challenges you might have here.
Perfect. Sounds great.
All right, cool. Love the place. It's just like it's one of those places. It makes me a little like jealous because. Not from a coaching perspective. I'm like, why couldn't I grow in high school here?
Oh, yeah. No, we joke about that with our kids. It's like they go off to a lot of colleges and they're a little bit disappointed sometimes when they leave. So we can't even, we joke, and I say this a lot about, our generation of kids are all over specialized and under generalized now.
Yeah.
And we're the generation of we were generalized and had no specialization. So we kind of look at this stuff in awe, like, man, what if I would have had a strength coach?
Yeah.
What if I would have been on a program? And I think you see it on the field and on the court. When I watch kids play, it's just amazing where athletics has gone. It's just a lot different than it was 10, 15 years ago, what you see on the field and the court now.
It really is. Yeah, I grew up playing ice hockey, and we had a couple rinks where I was. Yeah. And now it's like these kids, I would go to ice to get some ice time in the morning at 6:30. I'd see all these little kids there getting like personalized instruction. I'm thinking, man, but I was like, I wish I had that. I want to talk a little bit about you were talking a little bit about coaching.
Yeah.
You know, your challenge and struggle sometimes is with staffing, right?
Yeah,
Obviously, you went from strength coach to now you're athletic director, head of wellness, and talk to me about that challenge and being able to keep coaches and how do you do it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, making that transition. I will say this as a disclaimer, whatever you want to call it. I think a strength conditioning coach that's worked in a school or athletic setting is a perfect candidate for an athletic director job, because you understand, you've worked with every sport, you get the needs of different sports. You obviously, we all know how much time we put in as strength conditioning coaches, so we have buy-in into their sport.
Yeah.
So I don't think anyone on our staff views me, even though I've got a large football background, I don't think anyone views me as, hey, he's a football guy. And I think it's very helpful to have had those relationships previously. We've got a great staff of coaches here, and they've really done a good job of making my job easier by welcoming me with open arms and knowing that ultimately, when it comes, you know, Wednesday, I'm going to be on the road for 3 hours to watch a soccer match. And you know, I was the same thing with volleyball last week, that I care. And I think as a strength conditioning coach, one of the biggest things you can do, and whether you're in the private sector or whether you're at a school, is if you can, and I know it's hard, but get out to watch them play. And I think that just goes more into the relationship building aspect of it.
Absolutely.
But I think the biggest challenge that I've had is, man, I didn't know what I didn't know. Coming into my new job. It's just like when you take a new strength conditioning job, like it's all great on the outside, everything looks good. Now taking it's like, man, I didn't know that. Oh wow, man, that's a challenge. And for me, the challenge has been, I still coach, and I've got young staff members that we're mentoring and bringing along, and they're great. The biggest challenge is myself, holding myself to that standard of making sure that I'm giving them everything that they need. Am I answering all their questions? I don't want to leave anything. I'm not living in a world where I'm trying to hide anything from our assistants. I want them to know. I send them, I copy them on emails I send them every adjustment we make, because I want them to be able to think like I would think. And ultimately, that's the mark of what I want on our program. When we structured this program, we wanted it to be something that, okay, if I left, then it would still go. And you know, even though I'm still here and I'm still working with them, I'm not working the amount of time in here that I used to. And we want to set our coaches up for success. And I want to, you know, I had to take my ego out of it. The kids have looked to me for the last 6-7 years here of, hey, he's the guy. I've got to take my ego out and build those two up and say, hey, that's who you need to look to now. And I think that's you know, that was a challenge in the beginning. That's a transition, and you know, hopefully I can just continue to do a good job of that and set our people up for success.
And that's a sign of a good leader. It really is. I mean, you know, it's a hard thing to do, because you feel like, you know, they're getting the glory, and they're not. It's not, you know, it's walking around with you. Everybody's, you know, saying hi, they love you. You know, it's very cool. But how do you manage, you know, all these teams, all these students who are not athletes? I mean, it's crazy because the programming has got to be so different. You have different sports, you have different athletes, and you have male, female, you have, you know, then the general pop students. So talk to us about that managing that.
Yeah, to me it's like anything, and it's actually the same approach that I came with as an athletic director, of like, you've got to create a system. I mean, it's got to be systems based. So we've got to have an answer for whatever challenge we come up with. And to me it was, okay, when I got here, and really it was out of necessity that we developed this, because I was here by myself, and really what the school told me they wanted was, in terms of how we want to train everyone from the high-level athlete to the person who doesn't give a rip about being in your class. We want to train them at a high level. So it was one of those things where I was like, I've got to figure out how to meet these kids where they're at. And really that just came into setting up, okay, what's our standard exercise? And then, you know, we talked a little bit about, I've never met Coach Boyle, but I started, you know, when I started looking at a lot of his stuff of the regressions and progressions. And that's what it comes down to for us, is we build that off of, the first way we're going to do that is, one, we're putting everybody in a training developmental level, dependent upon, and we do everything based off of body weight and based off of how they perform on indicator lifts at each level. And somebody joked with me one time at a conference, I was going through them, and he said, these weights look like they're based off of, you know, 170-pound kids. And I said, that's exactly what they're based off of, because that's who I train. I train 170-pound kids all the time. I don't have any 250. You'll look around out here, you're not going to see those 250, 275 guys walking around. So we created a system that worked for us and our population who we have. But you could walk in, we have those developmental levels. Then from there, we kind of put them into 3 categories. And I'm staying purely on the athletic side right now. We're going to have a varsity player who's logging a lot of minutes. That's going to be our advanced level. Then we're going to have our role player, junior varsity, but I'm taking a lot of snaps. I'm getting beat up at practice type guy. It's kind of middle of the road. That still needs development, but he's not quite there. And then we're going to have our developmental guys who are freshmen, who aren't seeing much time, who are really just in a modified off-season program during that time. So somewhat of maybe a collegiate approach with that, appropriate for the high school level. So that kind of gives some depth to it. But I got a compliment from a coach one time that said there's a real simplicity in the complexity of the program. So our kids don't have to think. It's, hey, here we are, here's our off-season template. If you're in season, look to the board. These are your adjustments off of that. So we keep it as simple as we can for our kids so they don't have to think, they can just work. And then for us, it's a matter of, hey, we're going to take volume and we're going to cut intensity. And that's how we do that. We may modify exercises where one kid, an off-season kid, may be doing a full clean or full power clean. An in-season kid may be doing a pull. His volume may be 8 sets of 3, where this kid's volume may be 5 sets of 3 because he's in season. So we're all doing similar things, but the volume and the intensity are changed so it fits within a class structure of a lot of different people. It's probably not much different what you guys have to do in the private sector. When you start a group and you've got a bunch, I worked in the private sector when I was younger, and I see so many similarities between what we do at a school and what you do there. I think it's funny, Drew Massey and I and Andy McCoy and Brett and a lot of the guys we've talked about, if we could really get school coaches and private sector coaches to marry what they're doing together and have those conversations, I think all of our kids are going to be a lot better for it down the road. And I feel like we're moving in that direction. It's in a much better place than it was 5-10 years ago. I think coaches are aware enough now to know, hey, we're just trying to do what's best for the kids. I've always had a philosophy of, man, I'm an open book, and I'll show you everything we're doing. I just want to make sure that we're doing what's right. And whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. Any technology that you're using?
Sure.
What are you guys using?
Mainly velocity-based stuff. We use Tendo units, and I'm looking around. There's some new stuff coming out that looks pretty good. What was that thing? Jim Curtsy, I saw he had it the other day. I saw it on, social media nowadays. You see everybody's account. But we stick to the old Tendo for the most part, and we like it. Obviously, we use Conduct. I've been a big proponent of that, where our kids do our readiness surveys and things there. We've toyed with Omega Wave and some different things over the years, but those are kind of our big conduits of how we use technology right now. We want to always continue to. We want to do what fits without getting crazy and just doing it for technology's sake, and we have to be pretty. I think we have to be very prudent about how we do that with 30-minute classes. How much technology do you incorporate to where it gets to where I'm really hampering their development because we're standing around thinking too much and we're not getting our work done. So we've got to be careful with what we do, but we're always looking for a way to implement technology, especially with our generation of kids. And it really resonates with them.
That's so true. It's funny. Let's finish up. I want you just to kind of talk a little bit about the industry and your thoughts, maybe your advice because we were talking earlier about this industry and like coaches. It's hard to keep coaches because in general, the money's not there. And, we need multiple streams of revenue, for example, and we need kind of side gigs, or we need to be able to, what do you think what's the path these people should be taking, these coaches should be taking in order to be successful?
I think if I had it, I joked one time with my wife, I said, man, I don't know if I was having to do this now, I probably wouldn't have done it the way that I did it, because it's just changed so much. And I really do. I'm going to go back to one thing in the beginning. One, I think if your passion's there, I think ultimately everything else is going to follow. And any amount of success that I've been able to have in my career is because I was passionate and I outworked people. It wasn't because I was the smartest guy. And I really think those things don't go away. I think if you're passionate and you outwork people and you're ready to hustle, then you can be extremely successful. I know Ron McKeefery talks about this a lot. Now, I love getting with Ron when I have new interns. And first thing Ron will do is challenge them and say, what makes you different? What makes you different? And you know, I think there are a lot of ways to differentiate yourself nowadays. And really it depends on where you want to be and what the needs are there. If you listen to a guy like Eric Cressy, he'll say, well, I started doing the baseball stuff because I saw a need.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what young coaches are going to have to look at. Where is the need? What's coming around the corner that's going to be the need? So if I had to do this thing all over again, man, I may have gone the PT route, the PT strength coach route.
Yeah.
Because that seems to be a direction that obviously you want to stay in your lane. You don't want to get too far outside of that, but that's a skill set that, hey, if I could hire someone tomorrow that has a physical therapy background and was a good coach to go along with it, how much does that add to your staff?
It's true.
So I think just those little things to differentiate yourself, I think it's going to get more and more competitive, but I also think the field's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And I think if you work hard, you're passionate, you do it with humility, then I think it'll work itself out in the end. And those are the type of people that we need around young men and young women, honestly.
You're right. And people like you, so.
Oh, I appreciate that. You're very kind.
This. I mean, I can see from the way the kids treat you and the way, just listening to Jim Kilbasso and Mickey Free and Drew Massey, talking about you. So really glad we were able to come up here.
Oh, thank you. So I'm humbled. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thanks a lot.